In this edition of Kentucky Cattle News, we visit the massive Seven Springs farm near Cadiz, Kentucky. What impact will tariffs have on the beef market? Beef Marketing 101, how to sell your product in the modern age. You're watching Kentucky Cattle News. Hi, I'm your host, Kaya Twisselman. Our producer spotlight this month is from Seven Springs Farm near Cadiz, Kentucky. This massive operation spanning 8 counties runs 30,000 acres of crops and backgrounds over 14,000 head of cattle each year. Joe Nichols, managing partner for Seven Springs and a first-generation farmer, started the operation from scratch.
I grew up on a farm, a small farm, and then in 1982 or 3, my parents sold out and they moved away, moved to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I was a senior in high school, and I just said, I'm not going. And rented me a $110 a month apartment, working for $4.25 an hour, and started surviving, you might say.
Founded in 1994, Seven Springs gets its name from springs located around the farm. What started as a farm equipment and custom farming business has grown into an operation including corn, soybeans, wheat, barley, tobacco, cattle, a construction business, and ownership in a local restaurant.
Probably own, I'm guessing, around 2,800 acres, and the rest of it's cash rented, 100% cash rented. Christian, Trigg, Caldwell, Crittenden, Line, Callaway, Livingston, and Hopkins counties in Kentucky. So it's all probably a 40-mile radius of where we're sitting here right now.
In an average year, the farm raises 13,000 acres of corn, 10,000 acres of soybeans, up to 10,000 acres of wheat, and 110 acres of dark fire-cured tobacco. They currently maintain 58 full-time employees plus 24 migrant workers from Mexico and South Africa.
We're on target right now to background of should be somewhere, depends on how the fall shakes out and the summer rains, we'll be somewhere between 14 and 16,000 head this year.
The cattle side of the operation is a new venture, but one that has proved very successful since its inception in 2015. Scott Jolly manages the cattle for Seven Springs Farm.
It's nice having such a large grain operation behind the cattle operation because there's always a need for feed and byproducts to them or number one kind of products to us.
They focus on 450 to 500 pound heifers and add about 200 to 250 pounds in the roughly 90 days they keep the cattle before they are shipped onto the feedlot. The farm also finishes cows and markets the beef directly to local restaurants and retail.
Cheap feed and cheap cost of gain and good health and good marketing is everything in the cattle business.
Joe says the people he surrounded himself with have brought the farm to where it is now and will continue the farm far into the future.
Every decision I make is to empower the people that work with me here to support them in the future.
Read more about Seven Springs Farm in the August issue of Cow Country News. Escalating trade disputes with China, Canada, and Mexico are making impacts on several ag products in the U.S. To discuss direct and indirect impacts of the situation and to shed light on the future of the market, here's Kenny Burdine with your market report.
Trade continues to be a major topic of discussion across beef cattle markets, and rightfully so. In 2017, the U.S. exported about 11% of its beef production, so a little more than 1 in 10 pounds. Now, the beef sector is not quite as dependent on exports as pork or poultry, but definitely exports are a major driver of our cattle market here in the United States. China has recently increased their tariff on imports of beef from the U.S. What this does, this increases the price of U.S. imported beef in China, so less is imported. Since less is sent to China, more beef is left here in the domestic market, and that puts some downward pressure on beef prices. Second question, folks are going to be asking, okay, so how much impact is there likely to be from this? There's two main things that drive this impact. The first is how dependent we are on that export market. Naturally, a tariff is more impactful if it's a market that we export a lot more beef to. Secondly, is how large that tariff actually is. For example, a 50% tariff would obviously have much more impact on exports than a 10% tariff. So both those two factors definitely come into play. And we'll talk specifically a little bit about the direct impacts on beef and some of the cross impacts on pork. Thus far, both China and Canada have either imposed new tariffs or increased the rate of existing tariffs on beef imports from the U.S. In general, the Chinese tariff rates are higher, but less of our actual beef goes to China. In 2017, Canada accounted for roughly 11% of our total U.S. beef exports, or a little over 1% of total U.S. beef production. China, on the other hand, accounted for a much smaller share of our beef exports, well less than 1%. In reality, I think the impact from China has more to do with the fact that it's really going to slow up the increasing rate that we expected in terms of beef exports going to that country that most everybody expected. At the same time, there's going to be some cross impacts due to tariffs that have been imposed on pork. For example, in 2017, China accounted for roughly 7% of our total pork exports. This works out to be a little more than 1% of our total pork production. Mexico has also imposed a tariff on U.S. pork, and Mexico is a much larger market, accounting for almost 1/3 of our total pork exports. So the impact on pork that are going to spill into the beef markets may actually exceed the direct impact of the beef tariffs themselves. The truth is, we really don't know if things are going to settle down, if they're going to stay like they are, or if it's actually going to escalate. That's adding uncertainty to markets, and markets don't like uncertainty. Typically, uncertainty leads to volatility, and I think that explains why we've seen a lot of bouncing around in feeder cattle prices the last several months.
Beef Marketing 101 was broadcasted live on the Yard's Facebook page on July 17th for its monthly Producer Lunch and Learn series. The session explored different techniques, including social media and knowing your audience, to market your beef and add value to your herd in the modern age. There also was a discussion on direct marketing products from the farm. Myself and Tyler Clark with Advantage AgriMedia led the session. Here are the highlights. Social media marketing is a way for you to increase website traffic. I know a lot of people that are on social media that don't have a website, and that's okay. In fact, social media sometimes pops up first before your website even does if you type in someone on Google. But it's a way to improve communications, interact. You can develop real relationships with people online, which sounds crazy, but it's possible. And there's a ton of different ways to do that.
By and large, I think people just have questions and just want to learn. So if we do a good job of talking about what we're doing on the farm and the goodwill that we're doing in the community, that's a good way to kind of build not only your personal brand, but help the entire industry as well.
Watch the full session on the Yard's Facebook page or search the Yard's Lunch and Learn on YouTube. Lunch and Learns are held and broadcasted live on the third Tuesday each month, not including August. Also plan to attend the New and Beginning Farmer Learning Series on the last Wednesday of every month in the classroom. Beef and the Kentucky State Fair will go hand in hand August 16th through 26th at the Exposition Center in Louisville. Visit Agland in the South Wing and browse its 1-acre space dedicated to Kentucky agriculture. The space will consist of 18 ag groups coming together to bring a unified face and interactive experience to our largest consumer-facing event of the year. In Agland, you will find the Kentucky Beef Council booth with a fresh new face ready to tell the story of beef here in the Bluegrass. Don't forget to stop by the Kentucky Cattlemen's Cookout tent or their booth in the South Wing and get a delicious Kentucky Cattlemen's ground beef burger or ribeye sandwich. And don't miss the cattle shows on August 22nd through 26th, showcasing the best breeds in Kentucky and the hardworking youth that raise them. For a full schedule of fair events, visit kystatefair.org. Be sure to mark these dates on your calendar. August 16th through 26th, Kentucky State Fair in Louisville, Kentucky. August 31st, KCA Hall of Fame applications due to the KCA office. September 6th, CPC Fall Field Day, Fountain Run, Kentucky. September 28th, KJCA Fall Classic in Logan County, Kentucky. Follow the KCA Facebook page and YouTube channel for more clips and extended content. To download a copy of this segment, visit kykattle.org and tune into our next segment in September. Thanks for watching Kentucky Cattle News, where we're always thankful for farm families, healthy herds, and tasty traditions.